This question was taken from the past papers for grade 11. So on the first question, which is 1.1, we are required to solve for x in each of the following questions. So we have x squared plus x minus 12 equals to 0. And then we need to solve for x in this quadratic equation. So it is up to us if we want to use the quadratic formula and solve for x, or find the factors and solve for x, or solve for x by completing a square. So we are just going to find the factors of this equation, where the factors for x squared, it's gonna be x, and the factors for negative 12, that they are going to give us negative 12 if we multiply them, and give us a difference of 1 if we add them. It is supposed to be 4 and 3, but since the middle term, it has a coefficient of positive 1, so we have to say the bigger value, it is supposed to be positive, and the smallest value, it is supposed to be negative. So our x, it is going to be equals to negative 4, or our x, it is supposed to be equals to 3. Then we are done. Then let's go to 1.1.2, where we are given a radical sign with 2x plus 1 equated to x minus 1. And then to solve for x in this statement, so we need to square both sides, the left hand side and also the right hand side, in order to remove a radical sign. So when we are squaring on the left, we also need to square on the right to balance this equation. So when we are squaring on the left, we are going to remain with 2x plus 1. And then when it comes to the right, we are going to have x squared minus 2x plus 1. And then we need to take everything to one side. It could be the left hand side or the right hand side. And it is essentially for a grade 11 learner to do that, because if you do that and take everything to one side and equate it to 0, knowing that your side, if it is the left or the right, where everything you have taken to, it is simplified and equated to 0, you are going to get a mark for that, and they call it a standard form. So on this side, we are going to have negative, we are going to have x squared minus 4x, and then equals to 0. And then looking at these two terms, we have a common factor of x. If we take out x as a common factor and divide x squared with x, we are going to remain with x. Divide negative 4x with x, we are going to remain with negative 4 equals to 0. And then our x, it is going to be equals to 0, or our x, it is going to be equals to 4. Then if you are solving for x, always you need to keep in mind that you need to check your values if they make the statement to be true or not. So if you take 0 and substitute it here under the radical sign, you are going to have 2 times 0, which is 0 plus 1, and then the square root of 1, it is 1. Look at on the left, if you substitute 0 and then you subtract 1, we are going to get a negative 1. So which means x, it is not the part of the solutions of this equation. Let's go for x equals to 4. If you say your x, it is 4, and then you substitute it here, we are going to get a 9 under radical sign, and then we are going to get 3. If you substitute x as 4 and subtract 1, we are going to get a 3. Therefore, our x, or our only solution, it is x equals to 4. And then from here, let's go to the following question. And then in this question, which is 1.1.3, we are having 2 with an exponent of x multiplied by the radical of x equals to 2 to the power 27. So in order for this equation to be true, if a to the power m equals to a to the power n, then m is equals to n. So it also applies on this equation, just like it does with the laws of exponents. So meaning that our x multiplied by the radical of x, it is supposed to be equals to 27. And then on this side, it is up to us that if we want to remove the radical sign, we are going to square the left hand side and also the right hand side, or else we are just going to say it is x multiplied by x with the exponent of half equals to 27. Looking at the bases that they are the same, meaning that we are going to add the exponents. So adding half and 1, it is going to be 3 halves equals to 27. And then now we can remove this exponent by multiplying with the reciprocal of the exponent, meaning that we are going to multiply it with 2/3 and then equals to 27. And then also on this side we are going to apply the exponent of the 2/3, and then our x, it is going to be equal to 9. And then one can argue and say, especially the answers for this, it is supposed to have 3 solutions, because if you apply the cube roots there, if we just squared the both sides, we're just going to have a cube root. And then from the cube root, you are expected to have 3 solutions, but for grade 11 learner, you are expected to do it and find 1 solution, not all possible solutions for a cube root. So let's go for 1.1.4. Then on 1.1.4, we are having a quadratic equation and the inequality sign there. So what we are required to do actually, we need to find the values of x where this equation, it is gonna be less than 0. But firstly, I need you to understand that this equation can be represented as f at x equals to x squared minus 2x minus 8, where f at x or g at x is gonna be denoting y equals to x squared minus 2x minus 8. So if our equation equals to y, which means we are looking for y less than 0. So where does y is less than 0? It is below the x-axis. The y values, they are negative below the x-axis. So which means if we can draw this equation, we are looking where we can find the values of y below the x-axis, where the function exists below the x-axis. So firstly, what we are going to do, we need to find the factors of this equation, and then the factors of x squared is going to be x and x, and the factors of 8 that has the difference of 2, it is 4 and 2. Since in the middle term we have the negative value, which means 4 is supposed to be negative and 2, it is supposed to be positive. And then looking at this, if we can do the critical values, you just do them just like if we were solving for x with an equal sign. So our x, it was supposed to be equal to negative 2, or x, it was supposed to be equal to 4. And then just like I explained, that we are looking for the portion where our function, it is below the x-axis. So this is the portion that was going to belong below the x-axis. And then looking at this, which means our x, it is going to fall between -2 and between 4. And then we are done. This is the solution for you. Our x, it is greater than -2 but less than 4. And then now let's go for the following question, which is 1.2. Okay, on 1.2, let me use the different ink for this one. On 1.2, we are given the equation, which is the quadratic again, and then we are required to solve for x if f at x equals to 0. Now we are told that the y value, it is equals to 0, and then required to solve for x on our equation. So in order to solve for x there, you need to apply the quadratic equation, the quadratic formula for solving x, because we are told that we need to round off our answer into 2 decimal place. So in order to get those decimal place, which means those are the factors of the equation. So we are just going to say our equation, which is 5x squared plus 6x minus 7 equals to 0. And then in order to solve for x here, our x, it is going to be equal to -b plus or minus the radical sign of b squared minus 4ac. You can take this formula from the data sheet, divide by 2a, and then your x value, it is going to be equal to negative for the equation, and then for the formula, and then from there you substitute your value of b, which is 6, and then you say plus or minus, and then you check for your value of b, which is 6. squared minus 4. Your value of A, it is 5. And then your value of C, it is negative 7. Then from there, you just divide with 2, multiply by the value of A, which we said it is 5. And then from there, you punch the calculator to find the values of X. And then what you are going to do, you are going to punch it as it is, and then change the value, change the sign, which is positive, and also change the sign to negative to find the values of X. So after using the calculator correctly, you are going to get your X being equal to 0.73 if you used the positive here. And then from there, we are going to change the sign in the calculator. After changing the sign, we are just going to press the equal sign and then find the value of X, which is going to be equal to negative 1.93. Then you are done. And then from there, we go straight to 1.2.2. Now we are required to check or to calculate the value of D, for which the equation, which is given as 5x squared plus 6x minus D equals to 0, will have equal roots. So now there it comes the nature of roots. So for this equation to have equal roots, the discriminant, it is supposed to be equal to 0. They told us that it needed to have equal roots. So the discriminant is supposed to be equal to 0. And the discriminant, it is b squared minus 4ac. So it's supposed to be equal to 0. Then you substitute the value of b from this equation. The value of b, it is 6 squared minus 4. And then the value of a, it is 5. And then the value of c, it is minus d. You equate that to 0. And then from there, you have only one unknown, which is d. So in order to find d, we are just going to say here we have 36 minus 20. If you multiply 4 and 5, you are going to get 20. Multiply to the negative d, and then we are going to get a positive 20d equals to 0. So let me fix that one. It is going to be equals to 0. And then from there, we are just going to say our 20d equals to negative 36. And then our value for d, it is going to be equals to negative 36 divided by 20, which is going to be equals to negative 9 divided by 5. And then that is our value for d, and then we are done. Then from here, we just go straight to 1.3. Then on 1.3, we are required to solve for x and y simultaneously, given the two equations. So let's write this equation xy equals to 20 as our first equation. And let us write x minus 2y equals to negative 3 as our second equation. So in order to make things simple for us, we need to make one of the variables be the subject of the formula. So in this equation, we can make x equals to 2y minus 3, and I will call that my equation 3. So now we are going to substitute our equation 3 into our equation 1, which means wherever we see the value of x, we are going to put it 2y minus 3. So I could have used y and make it the subject of the formula, but I was just preventing using the fractions in calculation. Because if you used y as the subject of the formula, then we are going to have fractions. So we are going to have 2y minus 3 multiplied by y equals to 20. And then after multiplying here, we are going to have 2y squared minus 3y being equals to 20. Then now we need to take everything to one side and equate to 0. So we are going to have 2y squared. It is 2y squared here. 2y squared minus 3y minus 20 equals to 0. And then this step has the mark, so it is essentially, if you are doing grade 11 or grade 12, they call it a standard form. And then from here we need to consider the factors for 2y squared, or use the formula, which is the quadratic formula for finding the unknown if you have this quadratic. So which means we are going to have 2y here, and then we are going to have y here, such that if we multiply 2y and y, we are going to get 2y squared. And in terms of the factors of 20, we need to consider them, but knowing that we have the value of a that is greater than 1. So here we are going to have 5, and then here we are going to have 4, the factors that we are going to multiply and give us negative 20. But at the same time, we need to look that this 2y has an effect when multiplying. So after choosing the factors, you need to go back and try to multiply out and see if it does give you the equation above. And then here we are going to have positive 5. And then here we are going to have this negative 4. So if we say 2y multiplied by 4, we are going to get negative 8y. If we say 5y times 5 times y, we are going to get 5y, and then if we add that, is going to give us negative 3y, so which means we have the correct factors. And then our y, it is going to be equal to negative 5 halves, or our y, it is going to be equal to positive 4. And then from here, because we are solving for simultaneous equations, then which means we need to use one of our equations and then find the x values. So looking at our third equation that we chose to be making it to our equation 3, we said the x, it is going to be equal to 2y. So instead of y, let me substitute a negative 5 halves and then minus 3 from the equation. And then my x, it is going to be equal to negative 8. Meaning that if my x, it is negative 8, and then my corresponding y value, it is negative 5 halves. Then for finding the second x value, we are going to use the equation again. In the space of y, we are going to put the value which is 4, which we found y equals to 4, minus 3, and then the x value there, it is going to be equal to 5. Meaning that if our x equals to 5, then our corresponding y value, it is equal to 4. Then you are done. Thank you.